Hey guys, Otto here back with another video. So by the end of this video, what I'm going to have shown you is an operating system and a framework for your agency that you will never have considered or come across before. Now, it quite literally could be enough to save you from disaster this month if you are scrabbling for clients and struggling for income. So stick around to the end of the video. By the end of the video, I'm going to show you the exact blueprint and how you can implement it in your agency. And without further ado, I'm going to jump into this guide here. Okay, so we've got a foolproof guide here. It's going to take you through every single step that you need to go through to implement this system into your agency, why you should even consider it, and how much money it could actually make you. Okay, so what we're calling this is the 1.2 billion agency operating system. Now, the first question to ask, and is the question that we asked ourselves when we are starting our agencies, is how can we actually maximize the amount of stuff that we achieve and get done with our agency when we are operating with such a fixed and finite amount of resources? Okay, maybe you're just one person. All right, so the answer is not hiring out, the answer is not VAs. The actual answer is implementing a operational cadence. And if you don't know what an operational cadence is, I'm going to show you exactly what that is and what that means right now. Okay. So before we go on, what you need to know about this document here and this process I'm going to walk you through, it's going to be enough to take you from unbearable chaos within your agency to consistent predictability and scale. Okay. So the details wise, what this cadence and this operating system is based on is actually a 1.2 billion system that a SaaS founder that I'm going to talk about in a moment here used to grow his company in just 4 years, get to a point of doing over 56 million in annual recurring sales revenue, to basically going from a idea and inception point with no business to selling his company and having it acquired for 1.2 billion in just 4 years. Okay, so imagine that amount of money that you could create an agency or an info product, whatever it might be, from an idea that you've got right now, how you could actually sell that company for something like this, 1.2 billion in 4 years. Okay, it's mind-blowing, right? So what this guide is going to do is transform your perception of actually how you do business, and it's going to reveal exactly what tasks you should be working on and when. Okay, so I call this the agency cadence. All right, so this diagram here, we're going to go into in a bit of detail later on, okay? But what you need to look at specifically is the functions here, the relationship between sales and finance, product and marketing, and how they interlink together. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly why that actually means something in a moment here. All right, so I survived the first 30 days of SMMA. So if you don't know my story already, 6 years ago when I first started out on this journey, my goal was to hit 10K a month in recurring revenue consistently. Okay, it was probably a few months later. I can't remember specifically, and a whole lot of stress in between. But then I actually hit this goal, which was a whole nother story. And in fact, actually my first 10K monthly recurring revenue month was actually a 14K month. Okay, so things progressed upwards from there, and the chaos began to subtly subside. But you can see from my desk here, I didn't have a lot of resources, I didn't have any money. Times were really sort of focused on the hustle back then. All right, so prior to this, I was in utter chaos all of the time. I was balancing lead gen with outreach, service delivery with client success and account management, managing my own accounting, legal, finance, and every single other aspect of running an agency and being a one-man band. Okay, what this really did to me was make me miserable and depressed. Right, so if you haven't seen my video already, how I productized my SMMA, I talk about the process that I did and sort of went through to go from a traditional kind of brick and mortar service-based agency to actually having a more scalable productized offer. And in doing so, I actually realized that my operations were a total mess. And in order to scale the productized agency, I was going to have to significantly clean up my operations. Okay, so I really had no idea what I should be focusing on at any specific one point in time, or why. Okay, I didn't know whether I should be doing marketing or content or outreach or lead gen, whatever it might be. There was just no predictability. It was really just up, down, boom, bust. Okay, so the more I looked at my problems from a 30,000 foot viewpoint, the more I realized that I didn't just want to outsource or hire out the solution every single time. When you are an agency owner or a single sole operator or a single founder, every time you have a problem, just hiring to try and solve that problem is expensive, it's risky, it's time consuming. You could bring on somebody, an employee or a contractor that don't understand the business. You could pay the money up front, they churn, X, Y, Z. Okay, there's an infinite amount of problems when it comes to this kind of thought pattern and way of thinking when it comes to problem solving. All right. So what I didn't want was the solution to my problems every single time to actually have to rely on finding and hiring someone who could do it for me. For example, an operations manager. Okay. So instead of accepting that the only solution was the problem itself, I sought to actually solve the issue. Okay, so it's a little bit of a nuanced difference there. All right, so the extreme 1.2 billion SaaS playbook. All right, so my attempts to do so in productizing my agency and cleaning up my operations led me to analyzing SaaS startups in great depth. I've got a video here later, a while back on my channel, 3 Secrets SaaS Can Teach SMA, when I go into a bit of detail. So check that out if you're interested, right? So the reason that I was interested in SaaS company was because I wanted to figure out how a simple idea can actually grow from nothing, from inception, to a mind-blowing acquisition in terms of revenues and finances in just a matter of literal years, less than 5 years, okay? I'm talking 0 monthly recurring revenue and an idea to a 1.2 billion realized valuation in 4 years kind of growth. All right. So David Sacks, if you're not familiar with David Sacks, he's considered one of the SaaS operating greats. He was one of the former PayPal Mafia members, former PayPal CEO, created a company that he exited called Yammer. And he heralds the lion's share of his success to one specific operating philosophy, okay, with particular attention to the word philosophy there, okay? So this cadence that Sacks refers to is something he learned from his time working with Peter Thiel, who's a famous investor, that he then applied to rapidly grow his own startup businesses. All right. So this operational cadence hinges on the below 4 truths. And I'm going to go into detail into each one of these, all right? So number one, you can't have predictability unless you have operational cadence, all right? So we all want predictability and scalability in our business. We can't have that unless we actually understand what operational cadence is and implement a system around it, all right? So operational cadence can only exist in the presence of product market fit. So you can only implement an operational philosophy when you actually know that your offer is one that's resonating. Maybe you've actually made sales already and you've got product market fit already. Number 3, marketing feeds sales and product feeds marketing. It's a really specific thing to know here about running your agency offer, or whether you've got an info product, whatever it might be. And your calendars within your business of all these departments and compartments, or all these compartments must be offset and snapped together in order to hold teams accountable and preserve elements of the business that are working. All right. So how do you escape the 12-hour-a-day work flywheel when you are starting out your agency journey? So do you ever wonder whether you're working on is actually going to yield results? You know, how many times have you asked yourself, you're 4 hours deep into a piece of work, whatever it might be with your agency, and you're thinking, scratching your head, you know, what the hell am I even doing? Is this even going to help me? Is this going to benefit me in the long run? I have absolutely no idea whether this is going to actually generate results, whatever it might be. Okay, so how do you guarantee what you're working on is the right kind of task when everything at this stage of your journey is a priority? All right. So in the early days of growing a biz, and maybe this is where you're at right now, you will be wearing many different hats. You'll be spinning many different plates. Okay. But your first port of call is to create a product or offer that actually has market fit. Okay. That's to say there's an actual need, a real demand, and it's looking positive in terms of people buying from you and actually giving you their money. Okay, so I'm going to read that again. Okay, the first port of call is to have a product that actually has market fit and that there is real demand for, and that's looking positive, and you've got proof that people are either actually right now buying it or about to buy it. Okay, so you need to have some sort of evidence that people are giving you their money in return for your service or product. All right, so the earlier you test this, the better. And at this stage, you might not be on your own. Okay, you might have a couple of VAs, you might have team members that you're giving direct orders to. They know exactly what to do and when, because your team is small enough for you to keep tabs on their work and their progression. You might have product market fit, but your operations aren't ready for scaling. Okay, so you might already have some kind of proof of concept, but you're just finding that the day-to-day grind of what you're doing in your agency isn't working. You're not earning any more money, and things are just becoming more and more chaotic the more clients you bring on. Okay, so this relevance is unbelievably important when it comes to increasing your revenues, charging more, and developing a product or an offer that actually has real inherent value. Okay, so simply put, all core functions should be arranged so that they collectively focus on 1, increasing revenue and income, and 2, improving your product. Okay, you can't have one without the other. So here is how every great SaaS company compartmentalizes into these 4 major functions. Okay, the 4 major functions are as such: sales, financing, marketing, product. All right, so to understand the nuance of the relationship between these core functions, I'm going to walk you through it right now. All right, so listen to this carefully. Okay, sales generates revenue, which fuels finance. Okay, but sales can only be fed by high quality assets, which come from marketing. Marketing, on the other hand, is fed by product. So without adequate improvement to and expansion of the product, marketing has nothing material and tangible to shout about, thus forming 2 important duos that feed into each other. Okay, so we're going to shoot back to the flowchart above. Here are your 4 major functions of the operating system of your business. And here is a dividing line between the 2 duo functions: sales, finance, product, marketing. Okay, sales and finance are interlinked, product and marketing are interlinked, they feed into each other, and then there's a relationship between the 2 duos. And I'm going to talk to you about why that relationship actually matters right now. Okay, so what work should you focus on, right? So now we do have some clarity, we've got a target that we can aim for. What you should focus on is sales and product. Okay, sales and product, sales and product, sales and product. And whilst you work on both, you must make sure that each function's calendar aligns properly in order to bring predictability to the chaos. So David Sachs, the founder of Yammer and former PayPal Mafia member, Sachs refers to this as calendar snapping. Okay, so it means you actually offset everything you're doing on the sales and finance function side of your business to everything you're doing on the product and marketing side of the business. And you snap those 2 calendars together. Okay, so this is what SaaS companies do. So breaking this down into sales and product. Okay, so your sales finance function, the system, the relationship between sales and finance, should be orientated around a quarterly close. Okay, so anything less than that, if you're focusing your sales efforts on a monthly basis, it's too volatile. And in similarity, if you're focusing on a annual or 12-month projection, it's too rigid. Okay, so too short-term thinking, too long-term thinking. You want to find a sweet spot in the middle. All right. And this is what agency owners can learn from SaaS companies, is that the most successful SaaS companies set all of their sales goals and KPIs around a 3-month stretch of effort, i.e. a calendar quarter. Okay. That makes sense for the sales function and the finance function to revolve around the fiscal year, which in essence is simply, the fiscal year is just the calendar that your company or finance team refers to for accounting purposes. Okay, but the problem with most calendars is that they end up finishing on the Christmas holiday period. So if you start an agency, whatever it might be, you're creating an online course, a digital product, you've got a new offer, chances are that you're starting fresh January the 1st, and your whole business operating system runs from January the 1st to December the 31st or whatever, the end of December. But what you're going to find with this is that every single year, when it comes to actually finalizing, rounding off and closing all of those potentially stagnating deals or clients in your pipeline, every single time we're going to get to the Christmas period where the excuse is going to come up that all of your ICPs, your prospects, are on holiday, they're not responding to emails, they don't have the budget, they're not going to pay for anything now, and they're going to wait until the new year. Okay, so we don't want to set the sales and the finance, the whole money-making engine focus. We don't want to focus it around sort of limiting, glass ceilings like this. All right, we want to open up that finance function, and this is what oftentimes SaaS companies will open this and extend their sales kind of projection period to the end of January the 31st instead of the end of December. Okay, so it's a simple implementation thing to do for your agency, and what I recommend you do is put that in your calendar today. So instead of working to that year end of December, actually round that off and work to the end of January, because it's going to help you close more deals in essence and be more efficient when it comes to sales and actually generating revenue. Okay, so in terms of how you should structure these quarters from a sales perspective, whether you're a one-man band or you've got a team of VAs or SDRs, month 1 within that quarter of 3 months, what you want to focus on is sales goals, KPIs and plans. Rolling into month 2, you want to go through your pipeline, go through a process of pipeline inspection. And then in month 3, you want to cap off that quarter by focusing on all of your closes, wrapping up everything, all of the deals that you've got on the table. Okay, so month 1 is designed to kick off your sales process. All right. You have to look at your goals, set out your KPIs, project where you're going to go, where you want to be. Maybe you've got sales reps working for you and you're going to kind of reinstate their commission levels and clarify that for them. A huge mistake we see agency owners make is that they start acquiring leads, but they don't actually organize them or recycle them. Okay, so maybe you've got a small audience and you're getting warm leads inbound. Maybe you're doing some lead gen efforts yourself manually, or you've got a team of VAs doing it for you. Chances are you've probably got deals stagnating in your pipeline that you might otherwise be able to close if you simply were able to put in more consistent effort into pushing them over the line. Okay, so this is how this operating system can actually help you. Okay, if you follow this process, you'll have more time to allocate resources to the areas in your business that actually matter. Okay, those money-making, revenue-generating areas of the business. All right, so month 2, you go through your pipeline, you assess the likelihood of each deal that you have live in the mix and do everything you can to close them. All right, so also make sure you're capturing data on every stage of your sales process. So for example, what we do within our business, we have a pretty simple pipeline. It's represented in Kanban board format on Go High Level. And we break that down into intro calls, demo calls, invoices sent, negotiation, and close. Okay, sometimes we add more, sometimes we take out less, but for each stage, we're collecting data that shows us exactly what's working and what's not. So if you're not doing that already, start doing that in your business. Okay, so within the sales quarter, what happens next in month 3 is imperative to focus on actually closing out, rounding off on all of these deals and pushing them over the line. Okay, so this is why avoiding a month 3 scenario in December is so important. Don't let yourself make the excuse, or your sales reps have the excuse that prospects are on holiday, that they're unlikely to do a deal. Okay, so align your calendar for success. It's a core element of the of why this operating system is going to be so effective for you. Okay, so viewing each sales quarter from this perspective will actually enable you to evaluate your progress. It will enable you to analyze how many new clients you're closing and highlight any bottlenecks or issues in your sales process. It's a key assessment we go through with each of the program members too. If you want more information about that, send me a DM or drop a comment on this video below. So remember that at the end of the day, sales doesn't work unless the customer actually buys. So as early as you can start conducting sales calls, start generating, conducting, getting real-time feedback. It's going to help you if you get on sales calls with your ICPs, prospective buyers. It's going to be brutal. If you're not quite ready, you're going to get real-time feedback about what these individuals or these companies, if you're doing enterprise sales, actually like about your product, and specifically, and probably more apparently, they're going to tell you what they do not like and why they're not buying. Okay. So right, shooting through this operating procedure here, we've got a couple more pages to go. So stay with me if you're here. Like I said, by the end of this video, I'm going to give you an idea of how you can actually get more assistance on this and how we can help you for free implement this into your business. Right. So setting your hair on fire, we're going to shoot back to this image right here and why this is important. All right. So you don't want to be this guy, okay, even though he's smiling. So when it comes to setting your hair on fire, you might be in a season of sales growth or focus, for example. Okay, so let's take this as a metaphorical example here to work from. So you know that your sales process needs improvement. You're determined to restructure and get to the bottom of why perhaps you've got bottlenecks, why you're not closing out the number of deals that you want to be, why simply you're not making enough money or the money that you want to be making. Okay, so maybe you're even in the position where this has been happening for some period of time now and you're ready to go full scorched earth. But what is important to realize here is that any dramatic changes you're making in sales should not coincide with any similar shifts in product development and marketing. Okay, so you don't want this sales and finance function to be totally upheaved at the same time as the product marketing function. And I'm going to tell you why now. Okay. So going back here to the highlighted point, what you don't want to do is go mental on that top level duo whilst doing the same thing on the bottom level duo. Okay. This is because you only have a limited amount of energy and brain power. And it really highlights the importance of offsetting these calendars that you've snapped together. Okay. So by offsetting and bringing these calendars together with your sales and finance duo alongside your product and marketing duo, what you do is make sure that each core function of your business is only being focused on at any one point in time. Okay, so where your sales and finance calendar will end January the 1st now, it's recommended that your product and marketing calendar and how you set all of your goals relating to product runs on a different quarterly projection. Okay, so why are rocks, pebbles, and shit important? All right, so when it comes to product development, and when we talk about product development, your offer is your product. Okay, whether that's a service, it's putting tangible legs to what you're actually delivering, the value that you're bringing to the marketplace. We can kind of overarchingly categorize this as your product and what you're the value you're contributing to the world. Okay, so the best SaaS companies focus on prioritizing rocks, pebbles, and sand in that order. Okay, so rocks, pebbles, and sand. Rocks, pebbles, and sand. All right, remember that. It's a timeless analogy. Okay, so take a good look at this image here. What difference do you see? Okay, the jars are the same size. Presumably the contents have the same mass, but why is one fitting in perfectly and one isn't? Okay, I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you why this is happening and the damage it's doing in your agency right now. Okay, so if you try to fill the jar with sand first, i.e. here, what you are going to realize is that you have no room for the rocks. Okay, but when you drop the rocks in first and then the pebbles and then the sand, there's room for all inputs despite the jar staying the same. So the jar stays the same, the inputs are the same, but there's just no room if you organize things operationally in this way here on the left. Okay, this is what you want to focus on, how you run your operations on the right. This is your operating philosophy. Okay, so with your agency, if you're spending all of your time responding to emails, updating clients, answering support tickets, you're focusing on the sand, okay, i.e. the bleep. Not from the perspective that it's unimportant. Okay, so if you run an agency, you obviously have to keep your clients happy, or you're selling digital products, you have to keep your customers, informed and up to date and happy with their purchases. But as a solo founder, if you're focusing on this all of the time, it will be enough to make you quit. Okay, so if you're not spending any time on making your product or service better, you're not developing your offer, you're not working on your business instead of working in it, in reality, you're going to get to a point of despair, and the chaos is going to become too much. I got there, believe me, and that's why I went through the process of productizing my agency. Okay, so focusing on this is not unimportant. In reality, working on the sand items, i.e., the customer support tickets, customer service, account management, can actually improve churn significantly. Okay, so if you're keeping customers and clients happy, it will increase the strength of the projection of your monthly recurring revenue that goes on through through your projected sales calendar. Okay, so perhaps 1 to 2% for every 20 sand items you rectify. So it might be that for every 20 tickets that you're solving or 20 actions that you work on to make your customer experience better, you're going to help improve churn by 1 to 2%, right? But in order to see seismic shifts in product development, and that's what we need to focus on with our offer, is you have to focus on the rocks first, then the pebbles. Okay, so taking Tesla, for example, the rocks would be the new Cybertruck. All right. So Elon's focus on the core deliverable is what drives marketing. It's what drives sales. It's what drives financial growth and attention for Tesla as a company as a whole. Okay. Beneath that, the pebbles, if you will be the core components of the Cybertruck that Elon's bringing to the market. All right. So the bulletproof glass, features like that, seats, for example. So when it comes to development of your product or your offer or your service, you have to be led by that. Okay, so you have to be product led. And the reason for this is that focusing on delivering tentpole features, new products and major releases is really going to enable you to prioritize those new top level tentpole features of the business that you're bringing to market, and everything else trickles down from that. Okay, so this is why you see founders who rely on company news updates and we just hired X team members or we've got this market cap or whatever it might be. These are the guys that really typically fail to actually build an audience of merit. They struggle to bring on new customers because the marketing that they're putting out, they've got nothing to shout about. They've got no new features coming to the market. They've got no real core reasons why people should actually care about their product and their service. So instead they fill their marketing time and space and collateral with just generic company news. Okay, so if remember for some reason it's obviously physics. Filling a jar with sand first, then pebbles, leaves zero room for the rocks, right? So start with the rocks, layer on the pebbles and fill the gaps with sand. This will result in everything fitting perfectly. All right, that's how you resource plan. This is what this whole guide is about, how you can allocate your limited amount of resources to the things that matter within your business in order to make maximum amount of revenue. All right, so unrelenting accountability. Holding yourself accountable is probably the hardest thing to do when proof of concept is low and sales are wavering. All right, so typically these two things happen when you're at the start of your agency genesis and growth. It will happen even if you're 4 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in. There will be seasons that you go through where you struggle to hold yourself accountable, and you'll even find it easier to hold your team accountable more so than you actually find it easy to hold yourself accountable, right? So to give you some super tangible advice on what to do, here's how you can stay committed, right? So your sales should be focused around a close event and your product should be focused around a launch event. Okay, so sales, close event, product, launch event. All right, so these two types of event will make sure that you and whoever you have in your team, whether they're contractors or VAs, SDRs, whatever it might be, that you are all held accountable internally, but that you're held accountable externally too, specifically on the core real selling point features of your offer and your service and your product. Okay, so the way that Elon does this, the way that Steve Jobs did this, was that they would leverage a public live demo for their launch events. Okay, so their product was really driven by this North Star, this kind of line in the sand, this anchor at a future date where they knew, and they know currently with Tesla, that Elon's going to have to stand up on stage and talk about the attention grabbing core components of the Cybertruck and new cars that Tesla are bringing to market in front of an audience, live audience of thousands, and then indeed a global audience of multiple million people. Okay, so what this will do is ramp up your efforts and your focus on the things and the features that actually matter, and it will take away any time that you have spent trolling through emails, answering client requests and updating support tickets. All right, focusing on the sand. Okay, so live demos for the product marketing function of the business are what make the rocks actually fit in the jar. Okay, they make the rocks deliverable, and they make sure that everybody in the company are working on the rocks. Okay, no founder, not yourself, not your co-founder, not a SaaS company founder who's had a load of investment and has a board kind of directing what they do. Nobody wants to stand up in the public arena, jump on stage just to regurgitate a load of generic information about market cap, new team members, and actually have nothing to say about their company. Okay, so for your agency, I'm not suggesting you go and book a room in the local Holiday Inn, try and talk to a group of Facebook mums or whatever it might be. What I'm talking about is actually publicly announcing a webinar. Typically recommend 3 to 4 per year. But it can be in the form of new videos or YouTube videos. Speak about what you are doing, what you're working on, and what you're releasing live, and then put a date to it. Say when you will be delivering this to your community. Okay, so setting the date in stone is publicly announcing it, and it will do more for your productivity than any Instagram morning routine, journaling, praying, whatever it might be. Okay. When it comes to the sales finance function, on the other hand, the goal event here is a quarterly close. All right. So if you're on your own, or maybe you have a couple of sales reps, fabricate a metaphorical board meeting scenario, i.e., what the fuck would you actually present to your investors / board members if you had them about sales, growth, and revenue generation, right? So hold yourself accountable. And look, human beings are wired for seasons. This is why this operating system works so well. And if you start leveraging these two duo core function sales cycles, operating cycles within the business, I promise you that you will take your agency from a place of utter chaos to something that's actually consistently predictable and scalable when it comes to growth. Okay. So in closing, the key things to remember here is that order becomes chaos via a quarterly operational superstructure that's represented and reflected by the relationship between these core functions here, 4 of them. All right. With 2 duos. Okay. Offsetting and snapping together these 4 core functions. So having your sales function finish later in the year, actually the end of January, offsetting that to your product and marketing function, is going to leverage seasonal human biases. Okay, and it's going to ensure that you actually have 4 quarters of growth as opposed to just 1 good quarter per year. All right. An operational philosophy is actually what you need. All right. So you don't need an operations manager. You don't need to do it yourself. You need to have a wider perception of what a good operating philosophy looks like. And you're going to see by doing this and using a system like this, it's going to replace all of your erratic dates with actual quarterly targets that hold yourself and your team internally accountable, and also yourself externally accountable to your serviceable market. All right. So remember, this is all about turning chaos into order. All right. So if you're looking to make your agency more efficient, then we've got a free community on Discord. If you jump into that, there's links here. We'll be able to share this guide in there. You're going to get access to a lot more information about how we can help you develop your next 7 to 8 figure offer. All right, guys. So let me know what you thought about this video below, whether you would like more deep dives, business breakdowns like this. It's something that I really, really enjoy doing. It's really self-serving because everything that we are learning and getting insights-wise, I can help summarize and provide to you, succinctly. I know this has been a long video here, but hopefully if you've gotten to this point in the video, you've got a load of value from it. So let me know whether you got value from this. Drop a comment below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next one. All right, cheers.